GPS Photography and Video, gpsphotoandvideo.com, reporting for X25 Muscle Magazine, and joining me is Gillian Ward. Gillian, you are everything but a bodybuilder. You are IFBB Pro Women's Physique, but
Correct.
you're a world record holder, power lifter. Give me some more details, because if you do a Google her name, you'll see everything out there. Everybody will see you and they'll just say, oh, that's IFBB Pro Women's Physique.
Correct.
But that's not, there's more substance there.
From an athletic perspective, yes. I usually use the label for myself, the tag multi-sport athlete. So I started gymnastics when I was a little before I was 2 years old. And throughout childhood, I was a gymnast and a track and field athlete. In my 20s, I also got involved in dance, basic gym training, a little bit of mixed martial arts. If there was a challenge out there, I was going to do it. I did all kinds of random record chases, push-ups, handstand walking, just kind of a little bit of everything. And then approaching 30, I found CrossFit. Was very, very serious about CrossFit. Competed twice in the CrossFit Games. I came in third in the 2008 CrossFit Games. And then CrossFit kind of opened my eyes to more of the barbell sports and the strength sports, and that's where I really found my home and my love. So CrossFit launched me into Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, strongman, and women's physique.
So, which do you like being known for? Gymnast, powerlifter, crossfitter, competitive bodybuilder, fitness model, professional athlete?
All of those things and none of those things.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, in terms of all of those things, I see each one of them as part of all the rest. I succeeded in women's physique because I had the background and years of training and muscle maturity and discipline of a gymnast. I succeeded in weightlifting, because I had my years earlier training in the gym, gymnastics also. I succeeded in Olympic lifting from my track and field background. So I think they all kind of feed each other, and there's not any one that I hold in higher regard, even though I've had to work differently for each one of them. Mm-hmm. So I like kind of being seen as a culmination of all of those things and diversified. But when someone sees me, that's not me, those are things that I do.
Right. So
I like being seen for my hard work, but if I was ever to be known, in history as this is what Gillian's known for, mm-hmm. Primarily, I'd want to be thought of as an educator, okay. As somebody that teaches people, spreads the word about fitness, and more for being a human being. I want someone to say, Gillian is a great wife and a great daughter and a great sister and a great friend, and was always there for me. Mm-hmm. And if someone were to tell my story, those things would be more important than any title I've ever won.
Good deal. What's more challenging to compete for, prepare for? CrossFit, powerlifting, weightlifting, or bodybuilding competition?
Bodybuilding, hands down. There's a psychological component to it, mm-hmm. with bodybuilding, and some of it is that it's kind of twofold for me. Part of it is that it's subjective. So I know that if I'm competing in weightlifting, I need to clean and jerk this, snatch this to get this total, and I'll take first place.
Right.
I know that if I'm doing a powerlifting competition, what the records are. So in bodybuilding, you kind of work for this ideal that you're not completely sure of what it's going to be, because it depends who shows up on that day.
Okay.
So the image really is just of your best self. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is all of those other sports mm-hmm. consume part of my life. So those other sports, when I train for powerlifting, when I train for Olympic weightlifting, when I train for any sporting venture, it's a couple hours out of my day every day. I'm not saying I don't still follow good habits, but when I prep for a bodybuilding show, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, primarily because of the diet.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about that. How is the meal prep for each one, like for CrossFit versus powerlifting versus bodybuilding?
So to be an elite athlete in any sport, you have to address nutrition. Mm-hmm. So for years and years, I did not always address nutrition. I was always somebody that could get away with eating anything that I wanted and perform well. And as I got older, I realized that you sacrifice something. If you want to go out and have 5 beers on the boat, guess what? The next day you go to the gym, it's going to hurt.
Right.
So it's all about making choices and good choices with that. So no matter what, to perform highly, you need to be on with your diet. But when I approach performance-based sports, I am eating for performance, which
Okay.
means I am eating at least a maintenance level of calories, if not slightly more, so that I can recover and perform. So when I'm thinking about food, when I'm doing, like I said, sports that are performance in nature, where I have to lift large amounts of weight for them or perform at a high level, I'm thinking about nourishing my body to get through the next workout and treating it well. When I'm thinking about bodybuilding, I'm thinking I want to get as lean as possible, carry as little water as possible, as little body fat as possible, and at a certain level, below a certain level, you are sacrificing performance, and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
So I would be lying if I said when I am in a depleted state for weeks or months on end that it feels good. So the difference for me is between walking around feeling, when I'm training for strength sports, I walk around, it's going to sound silly, but feeling like a superhero.
Right.
And when I'm prepping for a bodybuilding show, I walk around feeling pretty meager and weak.
Wow.
That's
just the way.
Unfortunately, that's the truth. That there's no other way to look like that other than to be really, really uncomfortable.
You received your IFBB Pro card, Women's Physique 2014. Who was your coach? Who inspired you to go from CrossFit, the powerlifter, into bodybuilding?
So first, the transition. So like I said, I was very serious about CrossFit. CrossFit is tough on the body. And if I wanted to continue to compete at that level of CrossFit, that would have had to have been my whole life. If I was going to go back to the CrossFit Games year after year, that would have been my full-time job.
Right.
And that wasn't the priority at the time in my life. So again, it's about making a choice. If I want to win the CrossFit Games, I train 6 or 8 hours a day. At the time, I had opened a gym. My husband and I fell in love with lifting heavy weights together, and it was something the two of us could do together. And that was honestly, having something the two of us could do together was more important to me than CrossFit was.
Gotcha.
And I initially got into Olympic weightlifting, and he tried to coach me, but that didn't work out well. So I ended up a power lifter because we would have sessions in the garage in Virginia where he would try to coach my snatch or clean and jerk. And we lived on top of a hill, and when I would drop the barbell would roll down into the street, out the hill, across the street into someone else's ditch. So that was short-lived, Olympic weightlifting, and then I got into powerlifting and then continued to dabble in all the strength sports. So that was the transition from CrossFit to the strength sports. And then when my husband deployed in 2013, a local figure competitor came into the gym to learn how to powerlift. So she sought me out as a powerlifting coach and told me that I would do great in women's physique. And I didn't really know what it was. I was familiar with Dana Lynn Bailey, and I would say she is an exceptional role model in the sport. I was familiar with it, and I decided, not that I was bored, but I didn't have a spotter, and I no longer had a training partner.
Okay.
So I was kind of alone in powerlifting, and my husband was my training partner, and I was feeling a little bit lost.
And he was deployed.
And that prepping for a bodybuilding show or physique show gave me a lot of structure. And I was like, well, I'll look good when he comes home. And it was something, and at the time, I started to get scared about my lifts. I had, hit all-time records for myself on things, and I was just starting to get scared under the bar. I'm not gonna lie, just the idea of getting under a barbell any heavier than that was a little bit, so.
The bodybuilding was taken away from the powerlifting.
Yes, but even the choice, it was like, I'm gonna try something different just for once. Kind of, I didn't know it was on my bucket list because it never was, but she said, let's do this show. And I sought out coaching, and she gave me a great reference, Lauren Valentino, Mike Valentino's wife out of Wilmington, and she just kind of took me under her wing and showed me, what to do and took care of me, and she recognized that I was a very highly trained athlete and decided not to interfere with any of my athletic stuff because I was doing the right things, and that she would work with me on diet and posing and all of that stuff and prep me. So that was, she got me in February of 2014, and I got on stage, I think the North Carolina State Show is the second Saturday of April. So we had about 8 or 10 weeks together that I prepped for my first show.
Wow.
And it kind of took off from there, and I ended up in a sport that I had.
So you went pro in your first show?
I qualified for a national show in my first show. And things happened very fast from there, and I think I didn't really have a full understanding of what had happened until I competed in my first pro show, because going from deciding to do a women's physique competition to going pro happened in 7 months' time.
Wow.
So people are like, how did that happen? And what I say to them is, that may have happened in 7 months, but prior to that, I was 35 or 36 years old when I first competed. I had 30 years of training.
Yeah,
under
your
my belt.
lifetime prepared you for
Right.
that
I had
moment.
never
So it's
done
not
a
like,
bodybuilder
oh wow, she just
diet.
walked in and said, hey,
Right.
I'm a bodybuilder.
Exactly.
You know, there's a lot of time and patience has gone into
Yep.
that. For a gymnast to age 17, do you incorporate, how do you incorporate that into your routine on stage? Oh,
I
physique?
incorporate it as much as I can in women's physique, but women's physique is not the fitness division, so I believe there are limitations that you're allowed to do with the posing. So I've actually made a choice going into the 2018 season that I will be competing in fitness.
So you're going to drop down from physique to figure to fitness.
So fitness,
Wow.
theoretically, the body type of fitness is very similar to figure. I actually don't plan on making any changes to my physique whatsoever, and I'm just gonna put together the best routine possible and go out there and see what happens.
That's going to be something to see, because you've been a gymnast, you were trained as a gymnast since age 2.
Correct.
And you stopped at age 17.
I've
And so the background is there. That's going to be, that's
so
going to be
I'm currently
interesting.
training. I currently go to a little children's gymnastics school twice a week and have private lessons. And all of the little kids watch me, and all of the moms are out there watching a 40-year-old lady tumbling in her velvet leotard, and I think they find it very amusing. But and I think sometimes they wish they were out there with me, but I love it.
So that's definitely, you feel, is going to put you in a more a comfort zone compared.
Yes, and for me, the thing that's always been lacking in bodybuilding or women's physique is that, for me, it's always been about athletic performance, and everything I've done is to showcase my athleticism. So for bodybuilding, on stage, I'm not showcasing athleticism. I'm
Right.
just displaying myself. So I think the ability to showcase my athleticism is going to be great. I might do very poorly. So again, I'm not the body type that is the standard in fitness, but if you don't try, you never know.
And they haven't seen a former gymnast, women's physique, come down and
do
That's going to be
fitness.
crazy.
But-
So you went to the New York Pro.
correct.
Do you still hope to make the Olympic stage this year?
Not this year. I've transitioned, so I'll prep for a certain number of months out of the year, and I sort of consider that my hibernation from lifetime.
Right.
Because when you prep, it's very internal. Your focus is on yourself. I run a business. There's other things in my life that are very, very important, and it's hard for me to do everything when I'm prepping. So after my season's over, which for me ended after the New York Pro in May, I switch gears, enjoy my life, and then pursue my other sporting interests.
So talk to me briefly, the 2018 season, when you pick it back up.
Yes.
So you're going to come into 2018 as fitness.
Correct.
You got your eye on the Arnold Classic?
I do, and which you need to be invited for that. So I'm not sure how that works. So there's a chance I will need to get out there sometime before that in late 2017 in the fall in order to lock that down.
But there are other ways you can come into the Arnolds, because you can come
There
to
are.
Arnold's
There are.
as a powerlifter.
So I kind of have a vision of, like I said, I always tag multi-sport athlete. I would like to compete at the Arnold in no less than 2 sports, preferably 3 if they don't all overlap.
So we're looking at coming to the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio
Correct.
in March
Yes.
2018.
Yes.
Powerlifting,
Strongman and
strongman,
fitness
and fitness competitor.
I'll just tell them to plan them on different days.
That's
to
a good deal.
accommodate me.
They better look at the schedule. They're going to have to. That's going to be exciting. I mean, I can't see why they would want to give you an invite just to see if you could do it. So, hey, put it out there as a challenge. That's great stuff.
Thank you.
Talk to me about your event that's coming up on the 29th of July.
Okay. So there's been a little bit of buzz going on around on social media.
Dawn of the
about it.
Superhumans, they call
Yep,
it.
Dawn of the Superhumans. So it's something called Super League. It's started by Jay Jung. Dorian Yates is involved, Stan Efferding is involved, and it is kind of a modern day era in bodybuilding, which includes athleticism. So it's almost like bodybuilding and powerlifting have kind of merged together. So what's rewarded not only is physique, but you have to be able to perform at a very, very high level. And what they've eliminated is the subjectivity of judging. So rather than have a panel of judges, you're actually put through very technological three-dimensional body scanners that calculate what they call the deltas. So you're going to get ratios and measurements and a three-dimensional projection of the physique. So it could say, you know, your shoulder to waist ratio is this, waist to hip is this, your right leg is this, left leg is this, which I find very, very appealing versus judging. But the other thing is,
But now you're being judged by a computer, essentially.
you're essentially by a computer, but the performance round is weighted higher than the
Okay.
body composition round.
Gotcha.
So there's 8 tests of power output and physical performance, and it's about coming in where you could continue to look the part of a superhuman, but perform at your highest level. So rather than rewarding a starved, dehydrated, dry, unhealthy condition, it's about finding that balance of where you perform optimally and still look optimal. So it's kind of riding that balance in
And give optimal performance as well.
optimal performance. So that, to me, the kind of what made it so exciting was now I could finally, you know, I like a lot of things about bodybuilding, but to display my physical abilities. And the other thing I really, really like is that it's a team sport. They've created teams, and so much of what I do is like these individual sports where you go against everybody, and I truly miss the camaraderie of having teammates. So that's appealing to me too.